Thank you. Okay, councillors, welcome to the Ordinary Council meeting of the 28th of June 2023. And we have one member of the gallery. Thank you. I'd like to, before we get underway, I'd like to call upon Councillor Redwood to read the civic affirmation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We, the councillors of the Armidale region, declare that we will undertake the duties of the office of councillor in the best interests of our community and faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in us to the best of our skill and judgment.
Thank you, Councillor Redwood. Could I call upon Councillor Mepham to read the acknowledgement of country?
We acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. The Armidale regional community pays tribute to their love of land, love of people and love of culture.
Thank you, Councillor Mepham. Could I call upon the General Manager to make a statement regarding live streaming?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. This meeting is being audio and video recorded, and the recordings of the non-confidential parts of the meeting will be made available on the internet. No other persons are permitted to record the meeting unless specifically authorised by council to do so. And could mobile phones and computers be set to silent, please? Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. Councillors, I have received one request for leave of absence, and that's from Councillor McMichael. So we will be 10 councillors today, and we don't have anybody dialing in remotely. So the other all 10 of us are present. Councillors, having reviewed the agenda, do you, any of you need to declare a conflict of interest? Councillor O'Connor.
Yes, I need to declare a non-pecuniary, non-significant conflict of interest. I can't tell you the item number. It's the one about the community grants. I'm a $5 member of one of those associations, but it will not impact my vote.
Thank you, Councillor O'Connor. So that's to do with item 10.1. Okay, all right, councillors, we now get into item the first cab off the rank, items 5.1 and 5.2, which are the minutes of the meeting, the Ordinary Council meeting on the 24th of May and the Extraordinary Council meeting on the 16th of May. Can I have a mover for those, please? Thank you, Councillor Redwood. And a seconder? Thank you, Councillor O'Brien. Any comment to make, Councillor Redwood?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor O'Brien. Okay, let's put that to a vote to accept those minutes. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Councillors, item 6 is a mayoral minute, item 6.1 actually, and this is about the damaging increase in the emergency services levy. So the minute is a call to councillors to support representations to the New South Wales Government in response to the highly damaging increase in the emergency services levy. This levy has been imposed on all councils. For Armidale Regional Council, that's going to be an impost of around $305,000. And that came into effect, or comes into effect, this coming financial year, and it came without warning. And I see this as a blatant case of state government cost shifting. What we would be doing is joining with a lot of other councils, so all 128 councils are impacted. And this is to be part of a concerted push to the state government to see if we can change their mind. So, yes, if approved, the mayoral minute will see us join those other councils. So, as chair, I move this minute. Do I have a seconder? Just wanted one. Thank you, Councillor Gadders. Any discussion? Councillor Mepham.
I'd just like to ask one question. The $300,000 impact to Armidale, is that just Armidale's contribution to being the host of the zone, or is that including contributions from Walker and Uralla?
Thank you, Councillor Mepham. I'll defer to our Chief Financial Officer. So just from a microphone point of view, yes, that's just the Armidale portion. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, question.
Councillor Witters.
what exactly will this cost shifting do? Like if our and other councillors' objections aren't listened to, what impact does this have on Armidale Regional Council?
I'll give a fairly generic one, but I'll throw to our Chief Financial Officer in a sec. It is a direct blow to the bottom line. It's a cost that was not budgeted for, $305,000. It's around 10% of the income we can expect from the special rate variation. If we hadn't had the special rate variation, and those councils that haven't will be going backwards even further. But if I could ask the Chief Financial Officer to make a comment.
I think that was a lovely summary, Mr. Mayor. Yes, it's money that simply we will have to use general funds for. So when we talk about diving into our reserves, that's an additional amount.
So if the concerns aren't listened to, it'll impact on the services we can provide?
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you, Councillor Witters. Any other comments? Let's put that to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. This brings us to item 7.1, which is the Council Actions Report. So this report summarises the actions taken on resolutions of Council for the period January 2023 through to May 2023. Council is being asked to note the report. Details are from page 10 of the agenda and 21 of the attachments. Can I have a mover for that motion, please? Thank you, Councillor Gadders, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Redwood. Anything to say, Councillor Gadders? Councillor Redwood?
No, thank you.
Well, let's put that to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Item 7.2 is the Christmas closure and OCM cycle for the remainder of the financial year. So the proposed shutdown period for the administration centres and the depots it's proposed that they be closed of business Friday 22 December and reopening again on Monday the 8th of January 2024. I think on the paper it says January 2023. We'll tidy that up. The OCM cycle, it's proposed to remain the fourth Wednesday of the month at 4 p.m. So details are on page 11 of the agenda. Any comment? Sorry, could I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Mepham, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor O'Connor. Anything to say, Councillor Mepham? No? Councillor O'Connor? Okay. Let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. 8.1, third quarter budget review. It's back. So the report provides Council with the revised budget position. Council is being asked to, first of all, note the third quarter budget review, note the proposed revised 22-23 operating surplus, and resolve to adopt the amendments in the 22-23 budget, which has 2 days to run. Details are from page 4 of the agenda and page 50 of the attachments. Can I have a mover for that? Thank you, Councillor Galletley, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Redwood. Anything to say, Councillor Galletley? Councillor Redwood? Right, let's put that to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Item 8.2. This is the debt recovery policy and hardship policy. And so both these policies were developed in conjunction with the Livable Region Key Pillar Working Group. The updated policies were, they were undertaken as part of the special rate variation process with a view to making these policies far more user-friendly and ensure ratepayers are supported where needed. And I thank Councillors O'Brien and Galletley for their work along with the relevant ARC staff on this. The draft policy has been out on public exhibition and no submissions were received, and Council is being asked to adopt these policies. The details are on page 23 of the agenda and 87 of the attachments. Can I have a mover for that, please? Thank you, Councillor O'Brien, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Gillespie. Councillor O'Brien, anything to...
Thank you. I want to thank your staff for all their hard work in supporting and helping us put this policy together. We will realise that there will be some people affected by the rate rises, and we wanted to make sure the council was there as a part of that to support and assist those people. The decision for a rate rise too was very difficult and I suppose prolonged process involving councillors and council professionals working together over a number of workshops, going through various budgetary scenarios and line by line and looking at what might be cut in various different imaginations of what we would have or wouldn't have. In the end, after many days of this, I basically couldn't imagine any scenario that didn't involve a rate rise for two reasons. I'm talking about the rate rise because it's a very important part of this hardship policy. And I think the two reasons I supported it was that if we did not maintain our precious assets, our roads, our parks, our sports grounds, our libraries, our pools, our utilities, our airport, if we did not invest these things so vital to our community, we would end up paying a lot more, and that is just a fact. In the long run too, it would be the low-income property owners and renters who would be the hardest hit. There is for certain. Not having private wealth means that you rely on public resources more to maintain a decent lifestyle. You don't have a pool. If your car hits a pothole, it's often the last straw. You don't need a computer and books when we have a first-class library. And number two, which bluntly, things don't fall out of the sky. I am a low-income person and I see rates as my way of contributing to our community. I think choosing roads over anything I would buy myself individually would be a priority. And I get, though, that recent high costs of living, and this feels ominous too, and yet another burden for low-income people, for the aged and for families all struggling to keep their heads above water. But that's why an updated hardship policy is a vital part of this whole rate rise package. We worked together to basically produce a guideline to help people and help us access hardship applications. And we also, as part of this, gave support to the neighbourhood centres so we could work with them to ensure support and advice was available for those who are having trouble and are genuinely struggling to pay. If you look at the checklist on the policy, you'll see that some of that support is to ensure via the neighbourhood centre that people have all the entitlements that are due to them, that are people referred to organisations that may be able to assist them with other kinds of bills. From the council's end, you can see that we have the capacity to defer and waive fees and payment according to people's financial situation. Our council staff can work out a case-by-case assistance when you just can't pay. We definitely don't want, as a result of this rate rise, anyone left out in the cold. And we are actively looking at more compassionate ways of working out and working with people to sort any problems that they have so they don't disengage from the process and they don't feel like criminals, because to be in trouble financially is something that can happen to anyone. And we will announce some of those things that we're looking at, ways of doing this more compassionately as those settle in. Our commitment obviously is to all of the community, to build an infrastructure that doesn't wreck your car, that helps you be healthier with good sports grounds and the pool, to have more enlightenment by our wonderful library, and to bring in business and tourism by a fully equipped airport. But to ensure also that we pay for it. We need to pay for it, and that no one loses their homes if we can help it by their contribution. Our council offers a great deal more services than other councils, supporting assets to make this a high-functioning community. If these things were in private hands, those who are struggling would definitely lose access, I believe. And we will continue to contribute to, we'll continue to do so with your contribution if and when you're able. Our policy is also a dynamic one which will grow and change and add dimensions as government policies change and as our own fortune change. For example, in Victoria, their own policy changed regarding those who couldn't pay rates, and the Victorian government actually granted Victorian councils money to support those who whose rates they had to waive. And we hope too that we'll advocate for our policies to change in that way as well, so that we are able to move and change and support you even more in the future. In the meantime, we'll work with the New South Wales legislation. That doesn't mean we won't stop looking for creative ways to support those in hardship. I commend this policy to the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Brien. Councillor Gillespie.
Thanks, Deb. That was that covered things pretty well. In regards to this hardship policy, I commend Ann Newsom and Deborah for doing. They did the biggest lot of work. I just turned up to meetings and did the usual stuff I do, just putting the little bits and pieces in there. But I'm a bit saddened that some of the councillors thought that a lot more could have been done by Councillor O'Brien and myself. But the good thing is, after doing a bit of research, that it actually isn't set in concrete, so changes can be made by whoever wants to do it. And I'm sure that Councillor Packham and his self-proclaimed 25 years involved with developing public policy in the international legal sphere, and Councillor O'Connor with a vast experience in the legal field as well, will be able to do a lot better job we'll be able to do a lot better job with the hardship policy that Councillor O'Brien and myself have done.
Councillor Gillespie, it was a point of order. We have to. Councillor O'Connor.
You're getting recorded, Margaret. You got
Derogatory and sarcastic comments about other councillors just lowers the tone of the meeting, and I'm in the mayor's hands, the chairman's hands in relation to seeing that this doesn't continue.
Thank you, Councillor O'Connor. Councillor Gillespie, if you could avoid those comments.
Thank you, but it's a little bit of calling the pot calling the kettle black there, but that's okay. Now, I don't mind being judged by other councillors. I think it's great. And when I get positive feedback, but getting judged by councillors that have trouble keeping their own commitments to the community is a completely different matter, I'm afraid to say. So in that, go for it, fellas. You blokes, you're obviously a lot better at putting policies together than what Margaret O'Connor and myself would be. Thank you.
Would any other councillors like to speak to what is a very positive motion for the community?
Yep.
Councillor Witters.
Again, I want to thank Councillor O'Brien for such a succinct remarks in moving this motion. He highlighted some really good points about what services council provides and the value of providing those services by a public entity as council is, and not run by private enterprise where it can price gouts and a few other different things and price lower income earners out of the enjoyment of using those things. That's all.
Thank you, Councillor Witters. Councillor Robinson.
Yeah, no, I thoroughly support what Councillor O'Brien says. My heart goes out to anybody who's struggling. And if you are struggling, please contact the appropriate people so that you can be helped. Because there is help out there, and let's hope that people make use of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. All right, councillors, if there's no further comment, let's put this to a vote. All in favour of adopting the revised hardship and recovery policy? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Councillors, we now move to what in the papers is item 8.3, which is the adoption of the final integrated planning and reporting documents and the making of rates. This item really is the culmination of more than 12 months' work to fundamentally change our region from one that has lived hand to mouth and has lived hand to mouth for 20 plus years. We need to change that into a region that is prosperous and energetic. This process has not been without its challenges. And I think to this end, I want to thank all the staff and the councillors for their involvement and for staying the course. Now, details of this particular item are from page 27 of the agenda and 27 of the agenda and page 100 of the attachments. Now, there are some items in there that have caused some consternation. So I'm going to, as chair, split this item into two. And it depends what the tech wants to do. But what was point H in there, we will debate separately. 2.H. So we're going to look at everything from A through G, excluding H, which will be addressed in a discrete motion. So can I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Redwood. I hasn't appeared yet.
Thank you. I would just like to move the motion as written for this first section, but to propose the following amendment, which would be available on screen.
So, tech, are we just still waiting? Whilst that's happening, I've been a couple of points have been pointed out to me that are changes that are appearing on the screen that aren't in the business papers. The first one is the ad valorem rates that were in the business papers were there's an extra 2 decimal places that is shifting, which will make any of those who sat down and calculated what rates would be. That's a change there. And the other one is the Guyra waste levy was incorrectly listed at $50 when in fact it's $25. So we might just, once the text's ready, pardon? Okay, it's going to be fixed at the end. So Councillor Redwood, could you read out your amendments, please?
Certainly. So I'd like to move the following amendments. So for G4, that the water access charge can increase, but only to a maximum of 3.7% in line with the allowable rate peg increase. And point I, the council promptly conduct a review of the special delivery program prioritisation and allocation with consideration of the successful application for the special rate variation. At the same time, council will review the operational plan and determine if any financial year 2023 projects are to be carried over into financial year 2024.
Thank you, Councillor Redwood. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Gadders. So, Councillor Redwood, would you like to speak to this?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. We'll take into careful consideration the words of Councillor O'Brien and the ensuing hardship policy that we've just voted to implement. I applaud the council on the courage that we've had to apply for the special rate variation and congratulate those involved in the preparation of the application, which was required significant expertise and also effort. The result of this variation provides this council with the necessary funds to undertake long overdue maintenance and also move this region forward with its planned growth agenda.
Thank you. Councillor Gadders.
Mr Mayor and councillors, we all know this is a very important motion in front of us. It's that time of the year that we've got to actually ratify this budget so we can move forward and operate the council for the next 12 months and beyond. The rate variation component of this, whether you're for or against, the reality is we are at this point in time have it approved. And as a set of councillors and a set of operational staff, we will do our best to obviously spend that money wisely. And those IPNR documentation has been out there and you've already got good visibility of what's to come. So I think this is a huge step forward for our regional council.
Thank you, Councillor Gadders. Any other councillors? Councillor Packham?
Thank you, Mr Chair. And thank you very much to Councillors Redwood and Gaddies for those comments. I think it's moreover to say that our vision of 4,000 jobs and 10,000 residents in the longer term is well served by putting forward this budget and the investment that will take place to actually achieve that for future generations. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Councillor Witters.
Question for either the mover or the seconder. Can you elaborate more on why you think your amendment is a better option than what was originally in the business papers? Because there wasn't a lot of, this is why we think it's a better, this is why I'm putting this amendment in your statement. And if you want me to support your amendment, either one of you can answer it a little bit more in depth on why what you've got proposed is better than what was already in there.
Thanks, Councillor Witters. Councillor Redwood.
Thanks for the question, Councillor Witters. Well, there were two parts of the amendment. One was about the water and the access charge, and at a councillor roundtable that we held only last week, we discussed these water fees, and there was an agreement around the table for a 3.7%, which was in line with the rate peg for the access charge for water being an essential service and something that we'll have to pay for. So that was one piece, and the other piece was about ensuring that we were able to review the delivery program as well as look at the operational plan to see what would roll over. So the delivery program last year, when we were first, as this current cohort of councillors, we sat down and did a delivery program. At that stage, there was no special rate variation, and I think there was, more than half of us were new to council, and at that time we made some decisions on the prioritisation of certain projects over a 4-year period, taking into account the fact that we have a special rate variation, which will potentially bring forward some of those delivery program items, maybe from year 4 to year 3, or from year 3 to year 2, or maybe stay the same. So a review that's done by the councillors around the table, as we did the first time, to determine what that prioritisation is. The operational plan piece was that there were some items in the operational plan that were not achieved or won't be achieved in this financial year, and whether we decide to move them across, because they don't automatically move across.
Thank you. You also, Councillor Witters had asked Councillor Gadders, so if you'd like to.
And thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think Councillor Redwood put it very, very well. In terms of the reason for the first point, it was an opportunity here, while we have got increased cost of living across the board. This was an opportunity to look at maybe some relief for the community. So in a small part, and this is one that was available to us, in a short term, there are more investigations down, forward to us, where we can actually look at the water side of the business in more detail. The second point, exactly right. There's been a lot of water under the bridge in terms of when the original SRV was discussed and the projects that were discussed for the next 4 years in the delivery plan. It's just good business and good sense to take the checkpoint, the opportunity now to make sure that we've got the right projects prioritised and that things fall into sequence. And a great example Councillor Redwood gave is in terms of some of the projects that have moved out of this particular financial budget because we had to postpone them. Perhaps this is something we can now look at moving forward for the region in the future years' budgets.
Thank you, Councillor Gadders. Councillor Witters.
Just another question. You both mentioned the impact on ratepayers and mentioned the previous motion from Councillor O'Brien. What is the lay terms of how does it benefit the second amendment? I agree with. Just this first one, how does it benefit the ordinary ratepayer to peg it at 3 point? What benefit will they get in their, I suppose, out of their wallet or from their rates? Or
yeah, appreciate the question as well. So I'm not the water engineer, but we have an infrastructure which is ageing. I know we have a dedicated water fund, but the cost of provision of all of the services that we have only increases. Nothing goes down at the moment. So we're not talking about the fees for the consumption of water. We're talking about the access fee, which will contribute towards the upkeep and maintenance of the infrastructure that we have. And we do know that we have an ageing infrastructure. It's not, well, we've got a decent water system, but it certainly needs the necessary maintenance upkeep. So by not keeping up with, and this is not in line with inflation, but at least not keeping up with the rate peg, we could well and truly fall behind in the amount of money that we have to be able to provide the necessary maintenance to the infrastructure.
Thank you, Councillor Redwood. Maybe if I could just flesh out and put some numbers on that for you, Councillor Witters. The water access charge is currently $315. The recommendation on the screen was that it be increased by about 7% to $338. This amendment is taking it back, that 7% back down to no more than 3.7, which is the rate peg. Now, if that was fully applied, that's going to be somewhere in the realm of about $9. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Witt. 11, I've had some of the mathematicians tell me. Councillors, are there any other comments on that? Councillor Robinson. Sorry, before you do, Councillor Witters, have you finished your questions? Thank you. Councillor Robinson.
Yeah, no, I still want to express a little bit of concerns for low-income households, because they've already concerned about the SRV. And while certainly a 3.7% increase in the water access charge is certainly better than a 7.2%, it's still a case that when we look at the series of increases since the drought, those who've suffered the most are those who use the least water. And because we've got increases for intensive horticulture over the past 3 years of 15%, which might even be less than inflation. Those who use 2 megalitres of water, which is quite a phenomenal amount, have gone up by 27%, and for 1 megalitre, they've gone up by 37%. But those who use less than 100 kilolitres per quarter, they pay 50 to 59% increase over the past 3 years, including this charge. And that's basically another SRV on top of the SRV on the rates. And I'm not sure that I really agree with the argument that the service charge really is that what we're charging now is actually related to the cost of providing the services. Because if you think about it, we've got 31.1% of our households are single-person households, and they most often live in duplexes and triplexes. And these are the people who most often are the ones who are finding it difficult to make ends meet because they're on pensions or wages, and their pensions and wages haven't kept up with inflation. So unless people can argue that the cost of servicing a duplex or a triplex is a lot more than a single block, then we're actually exploiting these people. And so rather than increasing by 3%, 3.7%, those who can least afford it, I would certainly have much rather managed to achieve the same amount of money, if we really need the money, by actually levying a small 3.7% increase on the 1% of users who are using nearly 30% of water. And our job is to be fair to the community. And to me, to a certain extent, this looks like reverse Robin Hood tactics. We're robbing the poor to give money to the rich. And I'm really sorry that this is happening, but this is life. And maybe we have the IWCM strategy, the Integrated Water Management Strategy, and maybe that's a chance to put things right. So I will vote for this motion at the moment and put my faith in the IWCM to put things right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Any other comments?
I mean, one of the things.
Councillor Redwood, this will be your closing comment.
Closing.
Okay,
Sorry.
I didn't see your light. Sorry, Councillor O'Connor. Councillor O'Connor.
I do apologise, but I would like to say something so that Councillor Redwood can reply to it if he needs to. Look, I want to say that I do look forward to the IWCM consultations on affordability and water pricing with the community. I think there is an increasing appetite in the community to actually have this issue of what are our water needs long term, how are we raising funds to provide for them, and who is bearing the brunt of them. And there are some quite glaring, it would appear, regressive aspects of the pricing that we have at the moment. I know that the state government is sort of transitioning from best practice water pricing to something new. So we're in a bit of a flux, but I don't think it's good enough for us to sort of shut our eyes to the fact that or to the factors that Councillor Robinson's alluded to, and that is that we cannot be fundamentally unfair. We can't make the poorest pay the most proportionately for water. That just doesn't make sense. Yes, we do want to encourage industry, but we've really got to have a very big look at this, and I know that there is an appetite, and I applaud it, around this table for all of us to look at water pricing and make sure that it is equitable. So I look forward, as does I think all of us, to doing that review. At the moment, it'd be lovely to have no increase in the water access charge or any water pricing, but the fact is that councils that don't grab the rate peg when they can go backwards. So, you know, we're caught between a rock and a hard place in a sense. We want to be fair, we'd like to be compassionate, but financially we've got to look after, as Councillor O'Brien said, those public resources that everybody depends on, in particular those who are perhaps least able to provide for themselves financially. So right now, 3.7, that's the rate peg. Good, let's move forward on that, but let's also look forward, you know, to the realistic appraisal of what's fair in water pricing. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor O'Connor. If there's no further comments, I'll ask Councillor Redwood to just wrap up his motion.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. And yeah, thanks for Councillor Robinson and also Councillor O'Connor's remarks. Following from what Councillor O'Connor said, not only when we had the council roundtable, which I mentioned, we talked about the access charge and we talked about bringing it down from 7.2 to 3.7, but we also did make a commitment to having a look at the charges for consumption. So, you know, just ensuring our water users that we are committed to doing that, but we just, you know, said that we would do that after we received the necessary reports on that. So I think yeah, we hear what you're saying, and we'll respond accordingly.
Thank you, Councillor Redwood. All right, councillors, let's put this to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Councillors, we now move to the new motion, which is on the screen. So there is a recommendation there on the screen. Do I have a mover, Councillor O'Connor?
Oh, I don't move it. I move a deferral of this matter. There's been some discussion that we need more information, and I'm sure that the General Manager and his team will be very keen to provide that. Both of these named projects are incredibly important to Council, but I think before we bypass or we use the endorsement process provided under section 55 little I, most of us would be comfortable with a bit more of a report. So for that reason, I move a simple deferral motion to the next ordinary council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Connor. Do I have a seconder for what Councillor O'Connor has proposed? Thank you, Councillor Gadders. Councillor O'Connor, do you wish to speak to this?
No, I think I said what I needed to say when I moved.
Councillor Gadders.
And it's not a matter for debate anyway, it's simply a deferral motion.
Okay. All right, all those in...
Can anyone put anything in here? Are we allowed to have a talk?
Not for a deferral motion. We have to vote on that deferral motion. Do we either defer it or not. If it doesn't get up, then we'll discuss this.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
If we defer it, will that affect the training that's sort of set up for early next month?
I'll have to.
I'm just curious.
Thank you. I think it's worth asking a question, Councillor. Oh, sorry, I'll defer to the General Manager.
Yes, it will. Sorry, you haven't asked, but I'll just say I think if there's a debate for, as Councillor O'Connor think, I think it's probably right to take
take some
comments. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
By the way, for or against.
For or against. All right. Thank you. I agree with that. Let's have a chat. Thank you, Councillor Galletley. You'll want to have a chat.
I could see this coming from the General Manager's, what's the name, on a paper that we sat in on Monday, because there was a bit of to and fro. But anyway, I'm going to start with this. I commend the staff for the budget review that has been done with this Freddie Flintstone software that we've got at the present, and we're in the rebuilding stage of all of that for the council to move along and do a good job with it. I feel the negative stone throwing from some of the whiz-bang financial advisors that we've got in our midst here, come councillors, as not helping staff who've been ran ragged trying to get their work done, as well as preparing an SRV. Hopefully, we'll have some new software in the near future, and we should be able to go along as our financial accounting should be. And as far as the budgeting money of $350,000 going to the restore, thrive and development of this council, that was discussed extensively, as I said on Monday, with those councils that were, let's say, beating around the bush. I think we know who we're talking about there in the discussion. Why not just be totally transparent and tell the public that this is the amount that we are spending on getting our council back on its feet? $350,000. We've got to restore our culture development and build a council that has been ripped apart by incompetency for many, many years, that some of the councillors here have been in those actual years. Actually, in the past, also, there was about as much spent as this $350,000 on codes of conduct in our last term, and other cultural issues, obviously. So far, since Datner has been here, there's only been, to my knowledge, there's only been one code of conduct which cost $20,000 plus, which was dismissed with nothing to answer for. So I think we can agree the GM is doing what the powers to be put him there to do, and that is making ARC a desirable place to work and getting the business of running council back to where it should be. And the last thing we need is repeated offending council using up precious time of staff chasing shadows. Let's just move this on. Don't defer it and stick with what we started.
Thank you, Councillor Galletley. Councillor Witters.
Just to chat about whether to defer or not, the stench of hypocrisy within this chamber is pungent on the fact that this is looking to be deferred because there's not enough information. When I've sat in this chamber numerous times, decisions have been made with not enough information and other motions have been put in. So to use that as an excuse for deferment, I think it's hypocrisy at its finest. Otherwise, the discussion can go on.
Thank you, Councillor Witters. Councillor O'Brien.
Yeah, my concern after asking the question is that some of this training that's coming up would not be able to go ahead. I think we've already heard from much of the staff what a success it's been, and we also know what a bad culture can do to a council. It costs lots of money in the long run when there's a bad culture because people leave, you can't attract good people. Well, you can get taken to court or codes of conduct, a lot. And we haven't heard much negative at all from this, from the staff. And I'm a bit concerned that it might throw all of that planning into disarray when so far we haven't heard anything negative at all. So I'd be not happy to defer it, actually. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor O'Brien. Councillor Gadders.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. By no means here, and I want to be very, very clear, by no means here is it being said that the change program, and we've got 2 vendors on the board here, but the discussion seems to be around the first vendor. By no means is anybody saying that the change program delivered by that vendor is not providing value to the organisation. It is. What is being said here is this particular point is related to a procurement process. We sat here on the 16th of May, sorry, I've got my date wrong, it was May, at an ECM, and also asked to remove these particular points. If we have a July problem where training has been stopped, that has not been mentioned to the councillors. So we had a May, let's make a change. We are now sitting in a June OCM and we're getting exactly the same thing back without that change. So no additional information or change of direction has been provided. So it's unfortunate we find ourselves here in June having a very similar discussion. The next thing I'd like to say, which probably comes to a question, in light of this first vendor, because as I said, that seems to be the people that we are talking about here at the moment, and again, nothing against the vendor or the work they're doing, I think it is great value. I believe they would be providing services based on invoice. In other words, the services would happen, and at a later point in time, they would invoice us for payment of those services. Would that be correct?
That's a question for the General Manager.
Sorry.
Well, yes and no. I mean, more no than yes. In a sense, if it's a one-off, well, no, actually no in form. So I'm just thinking about this on the run. But essentially, because of the money that's been spent over the last couple of years, we've breached the procurement threshold. If it was purely a one-off vendor and we're using somebody else and it was an invoice arrangement and we're only going to use them for one session, then yeah, we could get away with that. But because this is part of a broader remit that's been a long-term program that's been fashioned out, and this particular program goes over the tender threshold, then it needs to be, the procurement exercise needs to be conducted as per what's being proposed here. And personally, I don't understand it. I think that it makes perfect sense to do the procurement at the same time as the budget. Now that the budget's been processed, it makes sense to do the procurement, largely at the same time, so we can get on from 1 July and engage with both vendors. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. Yep.
So just to finish up, appreciate the response, Mr. General Manager. I guess ultimately we've got a month, with what's on the board here. If we choose to adopt this, we've got a month to defer and then get it going again. As we said, there's no need. The purpose here is not to stop the program. It's actually to understand the procurement behind this so that we can take it forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillors? Okay, just for clarity, the vote that we go to now is to either defer this. If the vote fails, then we'll go back. I'll ask someone to move that motion as is. So, all those in favour of deferring? 5. All those against? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. As the chair, I have the casting vote. I vote this down. We will vote on the motion. Could I have a mover for the motion that's on the screen? Thank you, Councillor Galettley, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor O'Brien. Councillor Galettley, do you wish to speak?
In the past, in the past council, the disastrous council that we end up being called the Alice in Wonderland court case thing, we had a blowout, I think, of $1.5 million for the southern roundabout, which was basically through our people not working together very well. We had a standover merchant that was above someone.
But Councillor, okay, just if someone calls point of order, I have to address it. Councillor O'Connor, what's your?
Councillor Gladley's making, really quite scurrilous allegations that are not supported by evidence. To use the word standover merchant, I mean, it's just lowering the level of the debate to something that's really not fitting for this, body.
Thank you, Councillor O'Connor. I will just ask Councillor Gillespie if any personal references can be anonymised or even excluded.
It wasn't conducive to good communications that they had that cost the ratepayers about $1.5 million. At this present time, yes, we've got things working well. I probably don't have to say much more than what I said earlier on, but I can't believe that some of these councillors wanted to defer this. But anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Gillespie. Councillor O'Brien, you'd seconded this. Do you wish to say anything? No. You're fine. Thank you, Councillor Robinson.
All I wanted to do was ask a question, and it's really through you to Councillor Gaddis, who knows an awful lot about Technology One, as to whether it would be possible to split this into two. We're talking about two sets of procurements. One is for DATNA and the other is for Technology One. And it might be, since, some of the IT stuff has already been delayed, that we could actually have a report on Technology One, even though we're voting on DATNA. I don't know if that would help the situation, whether maybe I could put an amendment that we defer the third part of this motion and vote on the first and the second motions.
Thank you. So what we'll do is we'll take the question first if Councillor Gaddis has a succinct... Councillor Robinson, I think you might just have to clarify what the question is, and then you had a second allusion to an amendment. But let's just
my question, and I think Councillor Gaddis is probably the best person to answer this, is whether, even if we have, because of the training we are required to support the procurement for DATNA, whether it would be possible, whether there would be any adverse effects of deferring the procurement for Technology One for another month so that we can discuss it at the next meeting and have a report on it.
So obviously I'm answering this as a lone councillor. Look, I believe Councillor Robinson, that would not be a good thing to do at this point in time. We don't know the detail behind that in a Technology One scenario. I could talk for another hour in terms of the technology and perhaps the licensing and payment model, but will not. I believe there's been enough discussion on this particular item. It was asked to be deferred. That was lost. Now what's on the table, I think we need to vote with what's on the screen and move forward.
Thank you, Councillor Gaddis. I might just, for clarity, ask about, maybe through the General Manager, if there's any clarity around Councillor Robinson's question that you can provide.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, if councillors are interested in knowing a little bit more about the changeover on Tech One to the cloud and where we're at, we can provide an update on that, do a workshop on it.
Thank you. All right, councillors.
No, I've got a thing to go along with what Councillor Robertson's just said, and it's a question that might be able to be answered by anyone, really. The fact of now's a chance if people want to. And with the discussion since the May ECM and now, there's been a lot of talk, but not a lot of substance with the talk. Now's a chance to put in an amendment if you want to. I just wanted to know whether it's possible, because this is part of the bigger package of all the IPR documents and everything else, whether before I even decided to put in an amendment, whether an amendment can be put down there that this be looked at after the July training happens, so that the July training can happen, if that's a concern from Councillor O'Connor, that this is subject to be looked at, and instead of being deferred until the next one, you get your July training in and then come back and look at it again, if that's a possibility. If people are concerned about whether, if they vote for it now, it stays that way and there's no chance to change it. Now's a chance to use, as a term I coined on Monday, your cerebral nous, and come up with an amendment that satisfies your concerns.
Thank you, Councillor Widders. It was a question you put out there. I think probably the most appropriate person to answer that is the General Manager in the first instance, so if you're okay. It was. So we'll leave the statement for you, and if we can, maybe the General Manager, if there's any comment you can make to Councillor Widders.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Councillor Widders, I think the response is largely the same as the one that was provided to Councillor Gaddy's question around breaching tender thresholds and that sort of stuff, because of the spend that we've had over what would now be or coming into a third consecutive financial year, to engage said institution or vendor, we need to deal with the procurement issue.
Another question for you, Mr GM. If you would have to go back to the start of, say, the tender process for companies to do this sort of work, what sort of time frame loss of work and culture change and all that sort of stuff would council face? And also, do you have a financial loss on the time or the financial cost to go out to tender to then look for other businesses and all that sort of stuff, and how it measures up to what would be spent if this was voted? Does that question make sense?
Through you, Mr Mayor, Councillor Widders. I mean, I guess the short response to that would be that, a procurement process in local government probably takes 3 months, I guess, but you go out, you run your ad, you do your assessments, and then, so over that period, so that would be obviously be time lost. The problem that I would have with that is that there's not other providers out in the marketplace that do this type of the same work that the DATNA group do. It's just that we don't want to work with anybody else. That's the group that knows this organisation best, has got really good foundations in trust. The staff trust this group. I'm not sure exactly where the councillors, but the councillors that I talk to, I think, enjoy the process, and there's been trust relationships that have been established there. So it's more than just starting it again and going with a to start again and throw the baby out with the bathwater and get another organisation or group in would take a significant, probably take you 12 months, if not longer, 18 months to get back to where we were now, and you may never ever have the same levels of trust that have been established through this process. So yeah, from my perspective, this is the group that we want to work with. I think the other point to make is that it would be disingenuous of this council to go out to the marketplace asking other companies to spend a significant amount of time responding to a request for tender if there's no intention to use them. Companies have a funny way of getting really cranky about that sort of stuff. So that'd just be a couple of comments in response to your questions. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr General Manager. Councillor Widders, have we exhausted questions? Excellent. Councillor Redwood. Oh, no, it's not. Councillor O'Connor.
Yeah, I just want to make it really clear that my only concern is the process one, not the substance. I know there's very good reasons. It's just that as a councillor, once again, we have independently arising obligations under the Local Government Act to be fully informed, and a Section 55 little I exception, it requires us to be, fully informed. And I mean, we can choose, I guess, not to be informed. And, I'm actually grateful for the General Manager for setting out, his thoughts on that. It's just a process matter that we're in, I think, before we... I do not and have never thought that we should go out to a competitive tender on these. But I just think that before we go down the pathway of dispensing with that process, councillors themselves need to have some information about why we're not doing that.
Thank you, Councillor O'Connor. Councillors, Councillor Pack.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think Councillor Gaddies and in fact the GM put all the words there quite succinctly. There is bucket loads of plausible reasons why you would seek to go sole source procurement for the DAPNA Group and Tech One Limited, which in actual fact is an ASE listed company providing the Fin1 product and has done to universities and councils for nigh on 25 years that I've been associated with it, and that is a good product. It just needs the resources behind it. I'll go to Tech One for the moment, because Tech One requires you to retain consultants to actually write the reports that can actually extract the data that councillors Robinson and a few others are looking for if you have those reports written. There's nothing wrong with the system, it's being able to access it. Being a proprietary product and one that is fit for market and fit for purpose, there is no reason why you wouldn't come up and say that Tech One and this product isn't the right way to go forward. One day, if it's not, the license isn't supported, if their tech don't support it, they go out of business and are delisted, then you go to procurement and look for something else. And if it can't meet the statutory regulatory reporting requirements, you go and meet something else. So for all those reasons, it is plausible to go for a sole source on there. As same with DAPNA. You like the group, you've been in with the group, but as the General Manager said, it came to a point where the aggregated spend and the forecasted spend with that company exceeds his delegation and the generally accepted tender processes of state government, office of local government. So for me to find 3 paragraphs in a budget document, budget's where you garnish the resources from the community to go ahead with the program. It's a procurement process that ties in contracts and utilises those resources to deliver on the program. So for me, it's just a highly irregular way of going about the procurement. I'm asked to do due diligence. I don't see anything more than these 3 paragraphs and my own personal knowledge of the program. The DAPNA program for councillors and the most current one, which asks us to do another self-survey and ask our peers to do a survey, has now been deferred to a 3rd date. It's been deferred into the next period. It's gone from May, June, and now we're in July. So I actually don't care. I actually don't care about that. I think it's the right process and the right group to go with, but I want to see a proper regulatory procurement process that goes with it, explores it, declares to the public how much we're spending and how much we're forecast to spend and the benefits that it has derived and pushed towards this organisation and moving it forward, and ergo moving the community forward into being in a better place. But as it stands, it's in a regular procurement process to put this in a budget document, and hence I supported having this motion deferred to get more information, give the opportunity for management to go through and draft out the proper procurement process. We don't believe it's right to go back out to bid or out to tender despite meeting these thresholds. And then councillors come back and say, Mr. GM says, sorry, it's exceeded my delegation that you've provided, and now I'm asking you to support me going forward in that sense. And for those reasons, I will vote this down. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Pagan.
I know I've spoken on this, but I've spoken on the deferment and I've asked questions, so I still have my right to speak on it.
You do.
And just listening to the conversation and having a bit of an understanding between operational and governance, doing the job that I do at the moment, it seems like this little point is 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. It's from an operational point of view, it's something that the council wants to continue with on the operational side. It's been working, it's been effective. It's there's that relationship and trust that's been built. And back to, I think, one of the points Councillor Gillespie made about the culture and everything else, there's now a culture there. If you break that trust in the culture again, what happens then? Are we taking steps back? The other thing is, from the governance point of view, the councillors, which is their right, want to know about the procurement stage, the funding of it, all that sort of stuff, which is, again, as Councillor Packham says, is doing their due diligence. So it's sort of from my way of hearing it and way I'm reading it, is council saying from the operational side, we like this, we want to do it, we need you to trust us. And councillors are saying on the other side, well, we want to know a little bit more about it. So it's sort of, as someone that's got to vote on it, sort of half, well, do you look at the governance side and say, well, we want to know more, or do you look and see the benefits of what it's doing on the operational side and let the operational side do what they know is best on an operational value and what works for them? So it's a bit of a quandary, as they say, but we'll see what happens.
Thank you, Councillor Witters. All right, councillors, let's put it to... Well, only because you moved it, you can have a wrap up.
Can I have it? This is fairly simple. Sneaky little ways of getting this sort of stuff through. 51 minutes before this actual meeting, it was posted that this was going to be. Now, come on. What sort of camp's this?
Thank you, Councillor Gletley. All right, let's put it to a vote. All those in favour of adopting the motion on the screen? Thank you. Those against? 1, 2, 3. Oh, can I have a more confident against? 1, 2, 3. Councillor Robinson, where were you? Oh. Against for Councillor Mepham? 4. Okay, I declare that motion carried 6-4. Thank you. All right, councillors, item 9.1. Sorry, I'll just wait for the tech to catch up. No, this is, sorry, in a moment, but we'll get to that. This is a review of the property addressing and naming. So the report seeking council's endorsement to place on public exhibition the reviewed property addressing and naming of our roads and places policy. So details of that are on page 40 of the agenda and 422 of the attachments. There's a move on the screen. Councillor O'Connor, I guess you'd like to move that.
I'm just happy to move it because this is going on public exhibition and because somebody...
I'll get you to speak. Let's see if we can get a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Redwood. Councillor O'Connor.
I think this is a great recommendation. There's going to be the opportunity for the public and especially people from the Guyra community to have an input into, you know, future names, street names and things. And actually, it's very exciting to think that our street names reflect our history and the personality of the region. And anyway, I just commend this to people to engage with in a non-contentious way. There's a lot of creative opportunities to actually explore the history and the culture of our region through our street names. And the other side of it is, of course, that the Geographical Names Board is really there to keep an eye on setting rules and regulations that make addressing safe so that emergency services, ambulances, that sort of thing can get to emergencies in an efficient way and not get confused, and the same for the general public. So, yeah, it's a great part of what councils all over Australia do, which is manage naming of addresses. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor O'Connor. Councillor Redwood, anything to add? Councillor O'Connor, could you just turn your microphone on, please?
Sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I support the motion and support what Councillor O'Connor said.
Thank you. Councillors, anything to add?
Yeah, and just want to quickly just thank the council for their contact with me in regards to some of this. Appreciate it very much. Looking through it, and I know it's going out on public exhibition, so again implore the community to have a bit of a look, but to also understand, especially one of the more contentious issues. Now, it seems I'm not the most knowledgeable person on this issue, but there is some Aboriginal names on there, which was done in the 90s. Maybe some more. Having read through them, a lot of them are local Anaiwan words, but just the phonetics that were used is a little bit different to what the phonetics are used now. As Councillor O'Connor said, this is a good time for the Guyra community to get involved and get in touch with the names. But we've also got streets and roads and bridges and everything else that gets named in other parts of our community. As I mentioned in the last council, our council region goes fairly wide down to Lower Creek and the Carrai Plateau and up into the Guy Fawkes River area and up around that way and out near the Basin Nature Reserve and all these different spots that all are covered by different Aboriginal communities. So now's a chance for those people who would like to see some of those areas with street names and bridge names and everything else to put in some recommendations for it. So 28 days for you to do it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Witters. Anyone else wish to speak? All right, let's put that to the vote. All those in favour of placing this on public exhibition? Thank you. I'll declare that carried unanimously. Item 9.2 is the Armidale Local Environmental Plan. So the report is seeking council's endorsement, or sorry, council's approval to forward the planning proposal for minor housekeeping amendments to the Department of Planning for a gateway determination. Details are on page 45 of the agenda and 438 of the attachments. So there is a recommendation on the screen. Thank you, Councillor Robinson. You won that one, Councillor. You moved it. Councillor Redwood is seconding it. Councillor Robinson.
I'm all for correcting mistakes.
Terrific. Thank you. Councillor Redwood.
And I'm all for progress.
Match made in heaven. Let's see how we go. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Item 9.3, councillors, is the planning agreement with Enerpark associated with the development of the Tilbuster Solar Farm. So this agreement was struck during the previous term of council. The item is seeking council's approval to enter into a planning agreement with the developer. We have details from page 49 of the agenda and 521 of the attachments. Among other things, a recommendation on the screen is calling on council to publicly notify the planning agreement for a period of 28 days, which includes all terms of the planning agreement, and enter into the planning agreement if no submissions are received during the exhibition period, and delegate the necessary authority to the General Manager to do so. So that's the summary. Councillor Galletley is moving that and Councillor Robinson is seconding it. Councillor Galletley.
This is a good project, this one. This is one of the places where the solar's going that is completely out of sight. So if it's out of sight, it's out of mind. It comes in off a fairly busy, the New England Highway. So this, if all of these solar projects were like this, it would be so much easier. And I thank Executive Manager, Chief Officer Boys for negotiating this in the early stages. This was well and truly before we had any real yardstick to go by, and a bit of a quid won't hurt us. And up front, I think it's a good thing. But this is, in my opinion, if all solar would and wind were like this, it would be a very easy one to go through with the EnergyCo and RES.
Thank you, Councillor Galletley. Councillor Robinson.
Yes, I agree with Councillor Galletley, and I would like to thank Chief Officer Boyce for negotiating this agreement, because it's something that the more benefit the community receives from hosting renewable energy projects, the more we will benefit, the more our whole community will benefit, and the more we'll be on side, and also better it will be for the environment, because we still have a big problem as far as creating 100% renewable. And yes, it will happen, and I'm very, very confident of that. And the better it will be for everybody if we can share the benefits. So thank you, everybody, for being involved in that. And I look forward to the next agreement on the Oxley Solar Farm.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Councillors, any other comments? Right, let's put this to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Councillors, item 10.1 relates to community grants. This is one of those good news items where council is being asked to approve the distribution of $20,000 under the small grants program. We have details in the agenda. Could I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Packham, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor O'Brien. Councillor Packham.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Indeed, it was an absolute pleasure to be invited to consider the applicants for the community grant program, as it was doing the small business stimulus program during COVID, both the small amounts of money which mean so much to so many. Indeed, more of a pleasure to see applications of such high calibre coming from all sections of the community, which applied access, equity and participation from members of the community that may not have ever had the chance to do so. And it's just wonderful that the council could do that small bit for so many. I commiserate with the people, the groups that didn't get a chance here, but absolutely enthralled with those that did. And I look forward to hearing back, social media or otherwise, how wonderful their programs were for those that get a chance to enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Packham. Councillor O'Brien, anything to say as our seconder?
I didn't second it. Did I? Okay, all right. All right. I don't remember that. It was so long ago. No, this is wonderful. Some of these smaller organisations do so much with so little, and they end up having a huge impact on the community. And it is people who put their hands up to volunteer, and they deserve all the support they can to make the community a better place. They are kind of the glue that keeps us all together. So thank you very much for supporting them.
Thank you, Councillor O'Brien. Councillors, if there are no other comments, let's put this to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Councillors, item 10.2 is the Aboriginal Advisory Committee report, where council is being asked to note the minutes of the committee meeting held on the 6th of June. Details page 55 of the agenda and 557 of the attachments. Can I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Witters. A seconder? Thanks, Councillor Redwood. Councillor Witters.
This isn't just a normal note the minutes, don't really read them sort of thing. You need to take note of what's in these minutes. For too long, this committee or advisory committee either gets lost in the wilderness and doesn't really achieve anything, or people only turn up to it when there's a contentious issue. I want to commend the council and the council staff involved in this on getting a terms of reference for this committee put in. I think this committee or advisory group, whatever you want to call it, can do a lot of good stuff and actually really direct the council and the councillors on the important matters in regards to Aboriginal issues and give the whole Aboriginal community a voice, not just single people or people within individual circles. The way that it's set up is that it's looking at the Closing the Gap initiative and using people within that sector to be the consistent voices within that committee, and then bringing in the community members from there. I think it's a really good idea because, as I have mentioned previously in this chamber, I think we're a fairly big step behind a lot of other councils in regards to Aboriginal issues, and having a good solid terms of reference, and we will then give this committee direction, and hopefully the council will endorse these minutes so that those terms of reference can be ratified and we can move along.
Thank you. Councillor O'Brien.
Yes, having been on this committee for this term and last term, I welcome Councillor Witters for finally joining the committee and making his contribution. That's really terrific. And I also, this committee is a very committed group, and while there's some some difficulties. I think mostly they've worked really, really well together, but I do say those who feel that they want to contribute to this community and make decisions regarding policies for the Aboriginal community, you know, I implore you to come along. Everyone will be listened to. The discussions we've had in there have always been really wonderful and productive. And of course, we have a really fantastic support staff now to help with the policy making, but the people involved in the committee have also done a great deal of work on that. So, yeah, thank you, Brad, for Councillor Widders, for your words, and that's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor O'Brien. If there are no other comments, let's put this to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. This next item, councillors, is the Kempsey Road status report. So this is the first of what will be a monthly update on that Kempsey Armidale Road restoration project, which you will be aware is the largest single project ARC has undertaken. Council is being asked to note the report following the steering committee meeting held on the 8th of June. So details are on page 57 of the agenda. There is a recommendation there on the screen. Could I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Robinson. And a seconder? Thanks, Councillor O'Brien. Councillor Robinson.
I'm happy to move this and support this, but I did want to ask a question, if it's possible, and that if we do have a budget overrun, what financial position will council be in?
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. I'm going to defer to Chief Officer Manners to answer that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Robinson. We are constructing the contract and the deed that we will enter into with Transport for New South Wales, which will detail how those mechanisms work. One thing that we'll be working towards is to mitigate any potential financial risk to council, and where there is a potential, we'll develop mechanisms to minimise those.
Thank you. If I may I also ask if ARIC has been involved in the risk mitigation for this project?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. ARIC are aware of the project and they have not been involved in, sorry, did you say the risk mitigation for the project?
Yes, you did.
No, they haven't been involved in the risk mitigation process. That's been a project-specific activity managed by the various managers, including Transport for New South Wales, contractors and council staff.
Okay, thank you. That's all I wanted to know.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Councillor O'Brien, anything?
I just want to say thank you for putting forward such a detailed report, but also congratulations for taking on, I don't know how much choice you have, but taking on such an enormous project, being able to kind of implement this. It's been a contentious and problematic issue since I've been on council. Should show what we're capable of, and through that process probably attract further high quality staff. Because I don't think many small councils like us take on such a huge project. So congratulations and best wishes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Brien. Councillor Widders.
Chief Officer Manners, recently received a phone call from a resident down at Lower Creek, just in regards to access and all that sort of stuff. Can you give us, I know we've spoken about it before on some of the plans that we had about getting some transport in and out of that area. Can you just give us a quick update, if it's not already in this, on just how things are going in regards to some of the community members down there and getting them in and out and things like that, please?
Thank you, Councillor. It's through you, Mr. Mayor. The access down there is still currently restricted. The road is closed to the general public, but open to emergency services and local access only. At the Traffic Advisory Committee held on the 6th of December last year and endorsed at the Ordinary Council meeting in January or February this year, Council endorsed the implementation of weight restrictions on the road, as well as endorsing the road closure. The weight restrictions allow free access for the local residents and emergency services up to a 10-tonne limit. However, there is a weight restriction and permit system in place to allow loads greater than 10, but greater than up to 20 tonne. Those restrictions are the same ones that have been in place since the beginning of the year, and they will continue to be in place until we have further geotechnical advice otherwise.
Thank you. Councillor Packham.
Thank you, Mr Chair. As furtherance of Councillor Robinson's question concerning ARIC, it's a question for Chief Officer Manners, just to affirm, if you may, that ARIC would seek to understand the risk and how Council intends to mitigate those risks.
As an advisory body, ARIC have been happy to... Sorry, through you, Mr Mayor. Do they seek to understand the risks as we present to them? That's correct. That's correct. So they're an advisory body, but they won't seek to actually implement or direct our risk mitigation measures.
Thank you. That's how I was trying to clarify for Councillor Robinson their role on that.
Right. Thank you. Councillor Robinson.
Yeah, well, if there's no other debate, then I'd just like to use my right of reply to thank all the staff for their hard work on this, because it's been a very big and very important project, and it will be really, really good when we can pass on this road to the state government.
Thank you. That is a well-used right of reply. Councillors, let's put this to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Councillors, we now move to item 11.2, which is the adoption of gates and stock grids on public roads policy. This item is back with us following a period of public exhibition. We have details on page 64 of the agenda and 560 of the attachments. There is a recommendation on the screen, but I need a mover, and Councillor O'Connor.
I was going to move a deferral motion as I've provided to you, I think, which doesn't seem to be there.
I think you were going to put up a different
Yeah,
motion.
I've handed it up to you, and I understand it was going to be on the screen.
There we are. So is that's what you provided, Councillor O'Connor?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a seconder for this? So it's then a motion on foot, and thank you, Councillor Redwood. Councillor O'Connor, would you just like to speak to that?
Simply what I explained, that because I've been away unwell, I wasn't able to undertake on behalf of the Connected Region Key Pillar Working Group the consultation process. There was also a late provision of one of the submissions during the exhibition period, and so I think overall, just to get this done properly, a deferral has been agreed to, I hope, or has discussed, is going to make sure that we get this right. And I am sorry that I had to be away for medical reasons and couldn't do that consultation back in May, June. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Connor. Councillor Redwood, is the seconder anything to say?
Thank you. No, I just encourage the deferral of this process to allow it to be fairly engaged with those that it impacts, and we make a commitment to doing that as soon as possible.
Thank you. Councillor Galettley.
Just a quick question. What sort of time is it going to take for all these? So it's going to be deferred till next month. Are we going to be able to have it September? Sorry. 3 months. So we've got 3 months to get the information we want.
That's what the motion on the screen says.
Yeah, okay. Fingers crossed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that 3 months? Is that the only defer? I can't remember. Is that the only deferral on this motion, or has this motion been deferred previously before, or as the saying goes in this chamber, kicked down the road?
This is not a case of being kicked down the road, Councillor Witters.
Sure. Just if I can answer that, yes, this is not the first time this motion has been deferred. Thank you. Councillor O'Connor, any right of reply? No, thank you. All right, let's put this to the vote. All those in favour of what's on the screen? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Councillors, we now come to some committee reports. We have minutes of meetings of the Sports Council, the Traffic Advisory Committee and Key Pillar Working Groups. We have details from page 72 of the agenda and 582 of the attachments. I'll just take items 13.1 and 13.2 first. These are the Sports Council minutes from 12th of April and the 6th of June this year. And in various ones in the 12th of April, Council is being asked to note, firstly, the committee's decision to seek community support towards extending the Active Kids program, and then from the 6th of June, Council is being asked to note the budget allocated to fix any damage at the sports ground arising from the Big Chill. So can I have a mover? Maybe Councillor Galettley, seconder. Thanks, Councillor Redwood. Councillor Galettley, anything to...
No, everything's going along really well with it. We've got a new Rec and Development Officer in Chase Doran, so she's a bright as a button and looks like she'll fit in here fairly well. Yeah, fair bit going on, as you can well see, but no, all's going well.
Thank you. All right, let's put this to the vote. All those in favour of accepting those, noting the minutes, thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Item 13.3 relates to the Traffic Advisory Committee and the minutes of the 6th of June, where Council in those minutes is being asked to note, and actually endorse the road closure of Moore Street from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. on Thursday the 4th of September. Could I have a mover for this, please? Thanks, Councillor Redwood. A seconder is Councillor Robinson. Usually Councillor McMichael will speak to this, but do any other, Councillor Redwood as the mover, anything to say? Councillor Robinson, any other councillors? Let's put it to the vote. All those in favour of noting those minutes, thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Councillors, we now come to some key pillar at item 13.4, key pillar working group minutes, so from March to June 2023. So Council is being asked to note the minutes held within that period from March to June, and the minutes for two groups are provided. That's the enriched region and the growing region. So Council is being asked to note the various minutes, though I would suggest once we have a motion, once the motion is moved and seconded, if the chairs from each group could just give a brief overview on actions to date, and we will go from there. So could I have a mover, please? Thanks, Councillor Gadders, and a seconder. Thanks, Councillor Galettley. Councillor Gadders, you're the chair of one of those groups, being the growing region. What do you have to report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll keep it brief. You can see we've probably had a little bit of a backlog of minutes that have now come to light. But we have been beavering away in the growing region group. I guess let me just highlight the community business forums. Everyone's able to read through the minutes themselves, but in terms of the community business forums, this is a set of forums or meetings where we're catching up with some of the local or the larger local business organisations around. We're taking the opportunity to listen to them around what makes that organisation want to thrive in our local government area, and listening to what they see as very much the positive points for our region. We've also asked the question around what they perhaps could see we could do and think about in our future strategies to make business operations better for them. And ultimately, I guess what we're doing here is, with our growth agenda, making sure that we're keeping close to the businesses that have the potential to grow, and we understand ourselves as we're thinking forward in strategic terms to make sure that we've got the good points covered. So that's it. The business forums, we've had a few, and we'll continue to have those on a regular basis with large organisations as we go. And we then have a format where we'll start to move to some of the mid-sized organisations to also hear what they've got to say.
Thank you, Councillor Gadders. Councillor Witters, you're on the enriched region. Anything to add?
No, unfortunately, Councillor McMichael's not here. She's been, I think, looked after the last couple of meetings due to my abundance of spreading myself thin. I've missed a few due to work commitments and baby commitments and a few other different things. So just really want to thank Amy Hutton for all her work on this committee. She deserves a lollipop or two for the work that she's put in.
Terrific. Thank you. All right, councillors, if there's nothing further, let's vote on these minutes. All those in favour of noting? Thank you. Councillor O'Connor, are you done? Okay, I declare that carried unanimously. Thank you. This brings us to item 14.1, which is a notice of motion from Councillor Robinson, and where council is being asked to note the response to Councillor Robinson's notice of motion. So I call for a mover of the Councillor Robinson and a seconder. Can be Councillor O'Connor, thank you. Councillor Robinson, would you like to say a few words?
Well, just briefly, I mean, I submitted this question on notice because I am a little bit concerned that a valuation commissioned by this council about public infrastructure is deemed to contain commercial in confidence information and proprietary knowledge, even after we effectively purchase the property. Obviously, such a report has to be confidential before bids have been evaluated and the purchase goes through. But it wasn't obvious to me that there was a reason for the valuation to remain secret after that. And if there were particular bits that should remain confidential, maybe they could be redacted out. I obviously read the mayoral minute and the valuation report, but I still had some grave concerns about the valuation methodology. And maybe in the future, we'll have the openness and transparency to be able to discuss these things in public. And also perhaps be cognizant of the history of the dam, which was constructed by New England County Council in 1956 and later taken over by Essential Energy, and then operated by Essential Energy until the dam wall collapsed in 2013. So yes, maybe let's just hope in the future we can have a more open and enlightened discussion about these things. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Councillor O'Connor, as a seconder, anything to?
Yes, I just want to say I don't think this issue is going to go away. I did not feel comfortable voting on that, and I made that clear at the time. I didn't feel I had enough information, notwithstanding that the valuation report had been provided. And I'm constantly getting questions from the community about the value and the history of ownership and those things. So, yeah, I don't think it's going to go away. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillors, any other?
I have a question without notice based on just proceedings today. Have I missed something where, out of the code of meeting practice, that only male staff are addressed properly in regards to whether they're called council or chief officer or general manager? I noticed a couple of times today that the female people within the room were addressed by their first names. Have I missed something, or was that just a slip up from some people in here today to only address the females by their first names while the males were given their proper titles? Through you.
I'll have to take that on notice and maybe look back through the video. I know when I've referred to our Chief Financial Officer, she was referred to as our Chief Financial Officer. Didn't think that caused any offence. A few times. Okay. Well, thank you. Maybe we can delve into that. But back to matters at hand. Any other comments on the notice of motion? All those in favour of noting the response? Thank you. I declare
Can I say it was a question on notice, not a notice of motion?
Thank you very much. Well spotted. Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Councillors, that brings us to the end of the open session of the meeting. Thank you. I'd like to, could I have a motion, please, to move into closed session? Thanks, Councillor Robinson. And if resolved, ask the public exit, which there aren't, and seconded by Councillor Redwood. All those in favour of moving into closed? Thanks. Thank you. I welcome councillors back into the open session and ask the General Manager to read out the resolutions of the closed session.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Two items in closed session this evening. Of the 15.1, the award of a tender for the rehabilitation of selected lengths of deteriorated sanitary sewer and stormwater pipes, resolved by Council that accept the schedule of rates submission provided by Interflow Proprietary Limited as tendered for the sewer and stormwater relining programs for the 23-24, 24-25 and 25-26 financial years. B, delegate authority to the General Manager to approve expenditure to the upper limit of available funding for the project for the 23-24, 24-25 and 25-26 financial years, and delegate authority to the General Manager to execute all documents in relation to the contract. Item 15.2, Mr Mayor, the supply of ready mixed concrete for a 2-year period of regional procurement. Resolved by Council that it endorses the panel of 2 suppliers being Duckett's Earth Moving and Boral Resources, the Armidale plant, negotiated rates and terms and conditions of the regional procurement tender process for a period of 24 months from 1 July 2023 to 31 June 2025. A 12-month option for extension may be taken up based on satisfactory performance by the contractors. B, delegate authority to the General Manager to approve expenditure by Council for various fit-for-purpose infrastructure or road projects for the next 2 financial years, 23-24, 24-25, and if option is taken, 25-26 as provided. Delegate authority to the General Manager to execute all documents authority in relation to the contract and to delegate contract and financial management, including cases for variation within Council accordingly, and delegate authority to the General Manager to approve and accept a 12-month extension if required, if seen as a value proposition to Council based on the business case presented. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr General Manager. Look, there being no further business, I declare the meeting closed at 6 p.m, which for what has been the longest OCM of this term of council. Thank you.